The average American home now contains over 300,000 individual items, and we spend more than $40 billion a year just to store the overflow in rented units, many of which we never visit again. Meanwhile, in Japan, where the average apartment is a fraction of the size, homes feel impossibly spacious, calm, and free of visual noise. It is not because they own fewer things. It is because they have a completely different relationship with what they own. And that relationship is built on a set of daily, simple, almost invisible habits. I spent 6 years living in and returning to Japan, and I watched friends, neighbors, and host families do things that rewired my entire concept of a home. Today, I want to share with you the 15 most powerful decluttering hacks I brought back. Habits so simple they will shock you, and so genius you will wonder why no one taught you them before. You can start using these today, and I genuinely believe you can feel the transformation of your home within 24 hours. No giant purge, no expensive organizing systems, just a new way of seeing. Let us begin with number 15, the daily 5-minute reset known as the Asoji micro habit. We tend to think of cleaning and decluttering as enormous weekend projects, and so we put them off until the mess becomes unbearable. In a traditional Japanese household, there is a practice of asoji, a big cleaning. That happens at the end of every year. But what keeps the home clear the other 364 days is a tiny morning ritual. Before leaving the house, you set a timer for just 5 minutes. Not 10, not 15, because your brain will resist anything that feels like a big commitment. 5 minutes. You walk through every room and return exactly 5 things to their proper home. A coffee mug to the kitchen, a jacket to the hook, a stray piece of mail to the recycling bin, a toy to the shelf, a pair of shoes to the Jenkin rack. 5 items, 5 minutes, no exceptions. The surprising mechanism here is not just that you tidy. It is that you are retraining your eyes to register clutter as something temporary instead of invisible wallpaper. A 2009 study from UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families found that women who described their homes as cluttered had significantly higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol, and their brains had effectively learned to screen out the mess as a coping mechanism. The micro-habit breaks that trance. I remember staying with a host mother in Fukuoka who would do this with a cup of green tea in one hand, gliding from room to room almost dreamily. The faint scent of tatami and steamed rice still hanging in the air from breakfast. She would pause to straighten a cushion, slide a book back onto the shelf, and tuck a stray slipper into its cubby. When I asked her, she said, "If I do not do it, the house feels heavy by evening." 5 minutes is nothing, it is breathing, and it felt like breathing. The whole home seemed to exhale softly as she moved through it. Try it tomorrow morning, 5 minutes, 5 items. Watch how light you feel walking out the door, as if you have already accomplished something sacred before the real day even begins. Number 14. The entryway as sacred threshold, the Jenkin principle. In nearly every Japanese home, apartment, and even traditional inn, there is a clear physical demarcation called the Jenkin, a sunken entryway where outdoor shoes are removed and house slippers are put on. But the Jenkin is not just a pit for shoes, it is a psychological portal. It tells the mind everything from the outside world. The dirt, the rush, the noise stops here. Americans walk into their homes with shoes still on, bags dropped by the door, keys tossed anywhere, and the clutter of the outside world floods straight into the living space. In Japan, the Jenkin is deliberately clutter-free, often containing nothing but a neat row of slippers and maybe a single flower or a small piece of art. When you create a Jenkin zone, even if you do not have a sunken floor, you are drawing a line. Get a simple tray for shoes, a hook for keys, a small bowl for pocket change, and commit to never letting that area overflow. The surprising benefit is that This one habit stops clutter at the border. You will find you bring in far less junk mail, far fewer unnecessary purchases, because the act of pausing to change shoes forces a mental inventory. Your body literally slows down, and in that pause your mind registers every item you are carrying. A 2018 survey by the Japan House Institute noted that over 90% of Japanese people remove their shoes before entering the home, and it correlates strongly with a cultural mindset of separating chaos from sanctuary. I once visited a friend in a tiny Tokyo studio, maybe 200 square feet, and his Jenkin was just a 1 foot by 1 foot square of tile. But it was immaculate. He told me, "If this is clean, my mind is clean. If I let this go, everything falls apart." So here is your first 24-hour move. Pick 1 square foot right inside your front door. Clear it entirely and declare it sacred. Not one extra pair of shoes, not one random receipt. That single clean threshold will start to command the rest of your home. When I first tried this in my American apartment, I felt a surprising shift. Walking through that clear zone, I instinctively paused, took a breath, and mentally shed the traffic, the work stress, the noise. It is a tiny ritual that pays back in mental quiet 100-fold. Number 13. The one in, one out flow that Japanese homemakers never name but always practice. We Americans tend to accumulate. A new kitchen gadget, a new pair of sneakers, a new throw pillow, while the old ones just migrate to the basement or the back of the closet. In Japan, space is so precious that a silent rule governs shopping. For every new thing that enters, one old thing must be thanked and released. This is not a rigid minimalism, it is just a balanced equation. You buy a new sweater, you donate the one you have not worn all season. You bring home a wonderful new rice cooker, you pass the old one on to a second-hand shop. The mechanism is not deprivation, it is preventing the slow build-up of invisible weight. A study in the Journal of Environmental Psychology showed that simply having excessive objects in a room, even when neatly stored, increases cognitive load and contributes to a sense of being overwhelmed. The one in, one out habit keeps that load constant. I tried it myself after moving back to the States, and the first week felt painful, like I was betraying my possessions. I had a favorite worn-out hoodie that I never wore but could not release, and I had to wrestle with the feeling that letting it go was wasteful. But by month 3, my closets breathed, and I noticed I bought fewer impulse items because I would ask myself, is this new thing worth pushing out something I already own? Often the answer was no. A quiet honesty emerges. This is a quick win. In the next 24 hours, walk through your living room and pick up 5 things you have not used in 6 months. Just 5. Remove them from the home, and whenever you feel the itch to buy something new, let that equation sit in your mind. One in, one out. It reprograms the brain from scarcity to enoughness. I will be honest with you, the first few times you do this, a strange anxiety might bubble up, like you are losing a piece of security. That feeling passes. What replaces it is a spaciousness that feels more valuable than any new purchase. Number 12. The visible gratitude practice of matinai. You have probably heard matinai translated as "what a waste," but that is a shallow version. Matinai is the deep, almost spiritual regret over the misuse of an object's inherent value. In Japanese homes, this shows up as a habit of making things visible so they are used fully and not forgotten. Produce does not get shoved into a crisper drawer to rot. It gets a small bowl on the counter where you see it daily. Stationery, tools, even clothing for the current season are deliberately displayed or stored in clear containers, so they are impossible to ignore. The most startling contrast is in the kitchen. The average American family throws away nearly a third of the food they buy. According to data from the USDA, which amounts to thousands of dollars a year. Japanese households, by contrast, have one of the lowest rates of food waste in the world, and a big part of that is simply making food visible. When I lived with a family in Kyoto, the grandmother kept a shallow wooden tray on the kitchen table with the day's ingredients. A few carrots, a block of tofu, some greens, arranged beautifully. The morning light would fall across them, and they glistened with droplets from a quick rinse. It was not just decoration. It was a constant reminder: use me, honor me, do not let me go to waste. One afternoon, I watched her pick up a slightly limp shiso leaf, inspect it with a gentle frown, and then instead of tossing it, she folded it into a soup. That leaf had been seen. That leaf was valued. So your hack here is to open your cupboards and pull forward what you actually want to use this week. Ditch opaque storage for clear jars, wire baskets, open shelving in the pantry. The moment an item is hidden behind a solid door, it dies to your brain. The moment it is visible, Montanai kicks in and you use it. Try it today. Take everything off your kitchen counters, wipe them clean, and then place back only the 7 to 10 items you use every single day. Everything else goes into a cabinet, but arranged so the first thing you see is what needs to be used up. This alone can clear 24 hours of mental fog. When I first opened my fridge after applying this, I felt a jolt of relief. The food was not a forgotten puzzle, it was an invitation. Number 11. The power of the single surface rule, born from the Japanese aesthetic of ma. Ma is often translated as negative space, pause, or interval, but in the home it means the deliberate embrace of emptiness as beautiful and necessary. Western design tends to fear empty space. We fill every shelf, every wall, every corner with something to avoid the discomfort of blankness. In a Japanese room, ma is everywhere. A long wall with just one scroll, a wide table with only a single vase and one flower, a hallway with nothing but light. This is not because they lack possessions. It is because they understand that objects need breathing room to be appreciated, and that your eyes need rest to feel calm. The science backs this. A study from the Princeton University Neuroscience Institute found that when your visual field is cluttered with multiple competing objects, your brain's ability to focus and process information drops sharply. Ma restores that focus. When I first returned from Japan, I walked into my American apartment and felt like the walls were screaming at me. I had postcards, photos, little trinkets on every available surface. So I tried a radical experiment. I removed every single decorative item from one room and lived with it empty for a day. It was terrifying. The silence felt like a void, and I had this urge to fill it immediately. And then something shifted. I started to hear my own thoughts. I put back one object, a ceramic bowl from a trip to Kanazawa, and it suddenly felt like a treasure instead of just more noise. The emptiness around it made the bowl glow. So here is your challenge for today. Pick one horizontal surface in your home, a coffee table, a nightstand, a desk. Clear it completely, every last thing, leave it bare for 24 hours. Then and only then, select one single object to place on it. You will feel an almost instant sense of expansion in that whole room. That is ma, and it costs nothing. A gentle warning: the first few hours might feel stark and uncomfortable. Your hand may reach for a magazine or a remote out of habit. Let the emptiness sit. Let your nervous system learn that empty space is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be savored. Number 10. The attack on the floor, inspired by the futon culture of sleeping and sitting low. In a traditional Japanese home, the floor is where life happens. You sleep on a futon that is folded and stored away every morning. You sit on tatami mats around a low table. You may eat, read, and play near the ground. Because of this, the floor must be pristinely clear at all times. There is no such thing as a floor pile, a laundry heap, a stack of books in the corner, because that would be like having a pile of junk on your dinner plate. Americans, by contrast, see the floor as a permissible temporary shelf. We drop bags, we kick off shoes, we let things live on the floor for days until we trip over them. The hack here is simple and transformative. Within the next hour, go room by room and remove every single item from the floor that is not a piece of furniture. No shoes, no piles of magazines, no cables, no boxes, no orphaned shopping bags. Then make a new rule. Nothing lives on the floor ever unless it is actively in use. You will be shocked at how instantly larger and more serene your home feels. A psychological study published in the journal Environment and Behavior indicated that floor clutter is one of the strongest visual cues of a disordered home, and simply clearing the floor can drastically reduce reported anxiety levels. I remember visiting a friend's apartment in Osaka and noticing how even his backpack hung on a wall hook. Nothing touched the ground. He said the floor is for feet, not for stuff. As soon as something lands, it is like a weed. It spreads. I think about that often now, especially when I walk barefoot in my own home. A clear floor allows your feet to feel the coolness of wood or the softness of a rug without obstacle. And that physical sensation sends a signal of order to the brain. Command your floor, and you command the whole space. Try it tonight. Walk your home with a basket and collect anything that is not furniture, and then just stand back and look. The room will have grown by a third. Number 9. The labeling ritual that turns chaos into order, but with a Japanese twist. Western organizing often involves buying dozens of matching bins and a label maker. And while that can work, the Japanese approach I saw was more intuitive and far cheaper. Many Japanese homes use what I will call visual whisper labels, small, handwritten tags, washi tape with a single kanji, or even just a picture, to indicate not just what is inside a container, but the feeling of the category. For example, a drawer for things that soothe might have a tiny sticker of a leaf. A box for fix it soon might have a tiny hammer drawn on it. The genius is that you do not have to remember organizational systems from a book. You create categories based on your emotional relationship to the objects, and the labels serve as gentle reminders rather than rigid commands. The mechanism at work here is reducing decision fatigue. When you open a drawer and see a clear, simple label, your brain does not have to scan and categorize everything all over again. The University of Tokyo's Graduate School of Education published research showing that visual cues reduce cognitive load and make it more likely that people will maintain organizational systems over time. I tried this in my own kitchen, using blue masking tape and a black pen. On a jar of rice I wrote "soak me," on a bin of tea I wrote "calm," on a basket of root vegetables I wrote "earth candy." It sounds silly, but every time I opened the cabinet I smiled, and I put things back exactly where they belonged. My roommate thought I had lost my mind, but a week later I caught her returning a jar to the calm bin with a small smile on her face. So today, find 3 containers or drawers and create your own whisper labels. Do not worry about perfection. Write whatever word or draw whatever symbol makes you feel clear. This small act makes putting things away feel like a ritual instead of a chore. Even a child can do it. I have seen Japanese mothers give their toddlers tiny hand-drawn cards to match with toy bins, and the children start to learn order as a form of play. Number 8. The gratitude release practice I call the arigato send-off, drawn from the Shinto-influenced belief that objects have a soul. In Japan, there is a tradition of thanking items before discarding them, especially things like well-worn kitchen knives, dolls, or even needles in a ceremony called harikuyo. On a daily level, I noticed Japanese friends would hold a chipped teacup for a moment, say arigato, and then wrap it carefully before placing it in the recycling. This is not superstition. It is a psychological hack that disarms the guilt and anxiety that keeps us clinging to things we never use. We keep broken appliances, unworn clothes, and ugly gifts because we feel bad about wasting money or offending someone. The arigato send-off releases that burden. You acknowledge the service the object gave, you honor it, and you let it go with love. A fascinating study from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business found that when people performed a small ritual of thanks before parting with an item, they were over 40% more likely to actually let it go, and they felt happier doing it. I used this when I went through my closet after returning from Tokyo. I held up a jacket I had not worn in 3 years, mentally thanked it for keeping me warm on a few cold nights, and placed it in the donation bag. The guilt vanished. I even thanked a broken toaster that had been sitting in my cabinet for 2 years, and saying, "Thank you for the hundreds of perfect breakfasts," made it oddly emotional and then completely easy to recycle. I cleared half my wardrobe in an afternoon without a single moment of distress. Your 24-hour task. Find 3 items you have been holding onto out of pure obligation. Hold each one, genuinely thank it, then release it. You will feel lighter immediately. If it helps, physically wrap it in paper or a bag with a little bow, as a final act of respect. It changes the whole experience from throwing away to setting free. Number 7. The kimono cascade prevention tactic, or the small goods trap. Kimono in Japanese means small things, miscellaneous items. The endless little stuff that fills drawers and multiplies in the night. Japanese home organization often focuses on severely limiting the number of kimono allowed to exist in a given zone. In the kitchen, for instance, you will not find a drawer full of 20 random spatulas. You will find maybe 3, each with a specific purpose and a designated spot. The habit is to never let small objects become an anonymous mass. Instead, you treat each one as an individual with a right to space and visibility. The Western habit is the junk drawer, the catch-all basket, the "I'll deal with it later" pile. That is a cascade waiting to happen. When you have so many small things that you can no longer see each one, you stop using any of them and you buy duplicates. Think of all the pens, scissors, and phone chargers you own versus the ones you can find right now. The solution is shockingly simple. This evening, dump out one drawer of kimono, perhaps your desk drawer or your bathroom drawer. Spread every item on a towel. Pick up each one and ask, do I have a specific, repeated need for this? Does it bring me a little joy? Can I name its exact home? If not, let it go. Then, for the keepers, create tiny partitions using small boxes, origami folded paper dividers, or even repurpose tea tins so that nothing touches its neighbor. A clear view of each object prevents the cascade. I did this with my bathroom drawer, which had become a graveyard of half-used lotions, loose hair ties, and mysterious samples. I found 4 identical nail files because they were always buried, and I kept buying new ones. Now every item sits in its own small square, and I have not bought a duplicate in over a year. Try it tonight and see if tomorrow morning feels less frazzled. The simple act of opening a drawer and seeing every single item at a glance is a tiny, daily gift of peace. Number 6. The wabi-sabi permission slip for imperfection. Wabi-sabi is the Japanese aesthetic of finding beauty in imperfection, impermanence, and the natural cycle of wear. In a decluttering context, wabi-sabi is the antidote to the paralysis that keeps us holding on to things until they are perfectly organized. We wait until we have the perfect bins, the perfect weekend, the perfect plan, and meanwhile the clutter deepens. A Japanese elder once told me, "The dust does not wait for your perfect time. Neither should your care." The habit is to start where you are with what you have, and to accept that your home will never be photo shoot perfect, and that is not only okay, it is beautiful. A chipped bowl is not trash, it is wabi-sabi. A slightly mismatched set of storage containers does not need replacing. It is a story. This mindset releases you from the consumerist cycle of buying more stuff to organize the stuff you already have. I applied this in my own kitchen when I noticed I was refusing to organize my pantry because I did not have matching glass jars. I finally just emptied the boxes into whatever containers I had, some old mason jars, a couple of repurposed pasta sauce jars, and a tin that once held tea. I labeled them with my whisper labels, and it looked not like a magazine but like a real, loved kitchen. My stress plummeted. One of the jars had a chipped rim, but it functioned perfectly, and now when I see it, I remember that life does not require flawless. So today, give yourself permission to declutter with the ugly bins, the reused boxes, the improvised dividers. Do one category right now imperfectly, and let it be enough. The momentum is more important than the aesthetic, and you can always refine later. I have a friend who organized her entire craft room using shoeboxes covered in old calendar pages. And it is one of the most charming and functional spaces I have ever seen. Number 5. The seasonal rotation engine called kaitsuken, or the feeling of the seasons. In Japan, the changing of seasons is not just acknowledged, it is celebrated by rotating household items. Heavy winter bedding is stored away in the spring, fans come out in the summer, autumn brings warmer toned cushion covers, and winter welcomes kotatsu tables and thick ceramics. This constant rotation does more than decorate. It forces a quarterly audit of everything you own. Every few months, you are pulling out boxes, looking at your belongings, and making decisions about what to keep and what to release. Most American homes have basements, attics, and garages stuffed with items that have not seen daylight in years. We lose track of what we own, so we buy more. The seasonal rotation hack breaks that cycle. You do not need to go full Japanese seasonal aesthetic. Simply commit to this. Pull out all of your stored items, whether they are in a closet, under the bed, or in a storage unit, and handle each one. Ask, will I use this in the next season? Does it genuinely belong to my life now? If not, let it go with thanks. The act of rotating your wardrobe alone can uncover forgotten treasures and prevent purchase of duplicates. I was stunned the first time I did this after my first year in Tokyo. I had been storing summer clothes in a vacuum bag under the bed, and when I opened it, I found 5 tank tops I had completely forgotten about. I had been about to buy new ones. That one afternoon saved me money and gave me space. The smell of the vacuum bag was a little stale, but as I refolded each shirt, I thought of the summer days ahead, and putting them in the drawer felt like preparing for a reunion with old friends. Set a calendar reminder for 3 times a year to rotate your seasonal items. It turns decluttering into a natural, expected rhythm instead of a crisis. You will begin to anticipate the shift of each season as a time to reconnect with your home. Number 4. The everything has a home law. Known in many Japanese homes simply as Betsu no Basho ga aru. Each thing has its own place. This sounds so obvious, but the reason our homes become chaotic is not that we are lazy. It is that most of our things do not actually have a designated, permanent, and singular spot. A pair of scissors might drift between the kitchen drawer, the desk, and the bathroom. Without a fixed address, objects become homeless nomads that settle wherever they fall. In a Japanese household, even the smallest item has a precise, often labeled and unquestionable home. The tape dispenser does not wander. The remote control always returns to its little wooden tray. The nail clippers live in a tiny ceramic cup in the bathroom cabinet. This habit is not about rigidity. It is about honoring the object's role in your life. I remember my host father in Nagoya showing me his workshop. Every tool, no matter how obscure, had a silhouette drawn on the pegboard where it hung. He said, if I finish and something is missing, The blank shape screams at me until I return it. So your challenge is this. Walk your house with a basket and collect every stray item that does not have a permanent home. Do not shove them into a junk drawer. Sit down with each one and decide. Where does this live? If you cannot decide, maybe it does not belong in your life. Then create that home. Even a piece of painter's tape on a shelf with the item's name written on it will do. Once an object has a home, you will find yourself naturally returning it there, and the visual noise will drop dramatically within a single day. I did this with my keys. For years they roamed from table to bag to counter, and I lost them constantly. I finally installed a single brass hook by the door, and now my hand gravitates there without thought. It sounds trivial, but the elimination of that tiny daily panic has been profound. Number 3. The Danshari philosophy, which is often called the Japanese art of decluttering, but deserves a much deeper look. Danshari is a compound of 3 characters. Dan meaning refuse, sha meaning dispose, and rai meaning separate. It is a 3-step mental and physical practice. Refuse to bring unnecessary things into your life. Dispose of things that are no longer needed. Separate from attachments to objects that keep you stuck in the past or anxious about the future. Western minimalism often focuses just on the disposing step, the big purge, without addressing the intake valve or the emotional hooks. As a result, we declutter and then reclutter within months. Danshari is a lifestyle skill, and the hack is to start with the refusal step immediately. This week, before you buy anything that is not food or essential hygiene, pause. Ask yourself, am I bringing this in because I truly need it or because I am bored, anxious, or tempted by a sale? The second step, disposal, is what you do today. Take a small shopping bag and walk through one zone, your bathroom or your nightstand, and fill it with things that are expired, broken, or unused. Do not overthink. The third step, separation, is the ongoing work of looking at your belongings and asking, am I keeping this because it serves me now, or because I am afraid to let go of who I was or who I wanted to be? I have a friend in Kyoto who practices Danshari weekly. She told me, every week I fill one small bag. It never hurts because I am not attached to the objects, I am attached to my own clarity. That reframe changed my life. I realized I had been holding onto old textbooks from a degree I never finished, and they were silently judging me from the shelf. I thanked them for the knowledge they had given me, and I let them go to a second-hand bookstore. The shelf breathed, and I felt a chapter of my past finally close with grace. Danshari will transform your home faster than any storage system. Try it for 24 hours. Refuse one purchase, dispose of 10 items, and separate from one sentimental attachment that no longer feels true. Number 2. The zero flat surface accumulation rule, which I observed in the cleanest home I have ever stepped foot in. I was invited to the apartment of a tea ceremony teacher in Kanazawa. The place was small, but it felt like a temple. There was almost nothing on any flat surface. No mail stack on the counter, no pile of papers on the desk, no row of products on the bathroom sink. I asked her how she managed it. She smiled and said, "Flat surfaces are not storage, they are stages. I never place anything down that I do not mean to use immediately. And the moment I am finished, it vanishes back into its hiding place." That sentence rewired my brain. In most Western homes, flat surfaces become magnets for debris. The dining table collects the day's detritus. The kitchen island gathers appliances we used once. The dresser top becomes a museum of receipts and loose change. The hack is to treat every horizontal surface like a sacred stage that should be empty, except for one intentional, beautiful item or nothing at all. I applied this rule in my home office first. I cleared my desk completely except for my laptop and a single small plant. The feeling was almost eerie. My focus sharpened instantly. Then I moved to the kitchen counters, the bathroom vanity, the entryway shelf. Each time I cleared a surface, my heart rate seemed to slow. I made a pact with myself. If I am not actively using it, it never touches a flat surface. It goes straight to its home. Try it for the next 24 hours. Every time you put something down on a counter, pause and pick it back up. Walk it to its home. You will be astonished at how quickly your home transforms from chaotic to serene, simply by honoring the stage. And I will tell you a secret. The tea ceremony teacher showed me her single kitchen drawer. It held only a pair of scissors, a roll of tape, and a pen. She said, "These are my only tools. Everything else lives in the world where it belongs." I have never forgotten that. And finally, number 1. The most powerful, deceptively simple habit that ties all the others together. The evening closing ritual, the shime no tatanoaru, or the act of setting the house in order for the night. In Japan, it is common to see a home get a quick reset before bed, not a deep clean, but a gentle, evening return to baseline. Cushions are fluffed and placed, the day's clutter is cleared, dishes are washed and dried, the next day's essentials are laid out, and the home is put to sleep. The mechanism here is that you do not start the new day carrying the mess of yesterday. You wake up to a canvas ready for life, and that calm morning energy cascades into every decision you make. A study published in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that people who maintained an evening tidy-up ritual reported significantly higher sleep quality and lower morning stress. I adopted this after watching my host mother in Fukuoka move through the house each night around 9 o'clock. She would light a small incense, fill the kettle for the morning, fold the throw blankets, and wipe down the kitchen sink. It took her 10 minutes. The house felt like it exhaled. I remember her telling me, "You can tell the state of a person's heart by how they leave their home at night." That hit me hard. So here is your final, number 1 hack, the one that will hold all the others in place. Tonight, before you go to bed, spend exactly 10 minutes doing a closing ritual. Reset the living room, clear the kitchen counters, set out your morning cup and tea. Open a window for a moment to let fresh air in, and as you turn off the lights, thank your home for sheltering you. You will rise tomorrow in a space that feels like a gift, and that single feeling will motivate you to protect it. This is not about perfection. It is about gentleness and rhythm. And once you taste a morning after an evening ritual, you will never want to go back. These 15 habits are not chores. They are a quiet revolution against the chaos we have been taught to tolerate. Pick just 3 from this list and start them today. Within 24 hours, your home will begin to breathe differently, and so will you. You do not need more storage bins, a bigger house, or a professional organizer. You just need to see your space through a lens of reverence, the way so many Japanese households have for generations. And let that simple shift work its magic. Your home is waiting. Open the door and begin.